Hi class, welcome to IS 371. I am Professor Fahmi Jalani. Today we take a look at chapter 1 of Information System Security and Policy Management. So we'll take a look at learning objective, which is the ISS, Information Assurance, IA, governance, and ISS policy. And so we cover on a key concept. So what is actually ISS, or Information System Security? Is technically an act to protect your information from any system that store and process it. For example, your social media account, system network, your business network. This is essentially to prevent risk, okay, and things like unauthorized access, okay, protecting your bank account, for example. You don't want people to access your social security, even your social network, okay, which some of you might experience or hear friends who have their social media account being hacked and people pretending to be them and asking you for donation. Having said that, on a larger scale, business are being attacked or hacked, okay, where they are not allowed to function, and at times they have been asked for ransom, being paid on crypto and also or Bitcoin. Okay. So we'll take a look at the life cycle. Okay. This is basically to prevent mistake or reduce while developing or building the system. Okay. Essentially, they are being broken down to smaller parts, okay, which is commonly known as COVID, quite similar to COVID. Okay, this is control, objective, information and related technology. Okay, which is a framework that which is commonly practiced in the industry, which you will see on the next slide, which is version of 5.0. Okay. So here we have top left hand, we have the align, plan, organize, which we will go in detail later on, followed by build, acquire, implementation on the right side. Bottom left we have monitor, evaluate and access, and lastly is delivery, service and support. So if you look at the diagram, they are technically related or connected, and there is constant feedback, okay, which is essentially a life cycle. So going in depth on the next slide, we have the first one, alignment, plan and organize. Okay, so logically, before you start, you plan, okay, what do you want to do and how do you get there, okay, what's the objective, okay. And also there is usually a service SLA or service level agreement when you are doing a project, right? what the requirements, okay, what's the deliverables, things like that. Okay. Next, you, for example, if you're a project manager, you build, acquire, implement. Okay, you have schedule, and which could be done on a Gantt chart. Okay, where you have plan and actual of the project. Okay, I mentioned about deliverables. Okay, like stages, different stages, building the software, for example, the system, together with your team. Okay, take note, change management. You could be new staff, changing of work, job roles, for example. Thirdly, we have deliver service and support. As you build, you analyze the data. Is that the correct data that you want? Okay, you need to test it. Okay, and review there at the same time SLA. Okay, is that what you really require? Okay, and also communicate to vendors continuously. Let's say you have meetings. Meetings could be just an update on email. Okay, okay, constant updates, right? Testing, okay, adjustment, or even KPI. Lastly, we have monitor, evaluate, and access. Okay, I mentioned about testing, monitoring, control, right? Where you test the system and see whether how it functions. Okay. Also, check whether its effectiveness, not only effectiveness, also its usefulness. Okay. Is the software useful for the user? Okay, how effective it is, and also auditing. Okay, it could be internal or external. Right. So these are basically the 4 points that's required in a life cycle. Moving along, we talk about auditing. Okay, basically there's 4. First one is self-assessment, where you could do it yourself. For example, you have QA, quality assurance, or quality control. Okay. Next is internal audit, where you generate reports to be sent to senior management, in this case directors, okay, or even the clients. But on top of that, you have external auditor. Okay, could be third party checking you or auditing you. Okay, this is basically to certify, okay, to get certification, for example ISO, yeah, international standard. And lastly, we have regulatory audits is performed by governments, okay, to comply with the law, pretty much on government project. Okay, okay. So as we talk about audit, here we have the ISO standard for IEC 38500, where they cover on responsibility, strategy, acquisition, performance and conformance, and human behavior. This is an example. So what is IA, or information assurance? So there are 5 points in IA. So maybe some of you are majoring in that. Okay. First one is confidentiality. Okay, which we take a look later on. Integrity. Okay. Availability. Right. Authentication. You know that, and non-repudiation. So first we have confidentiality. Okay, quite straightforward. For example, you have a system and a database. In this case, you have the administrator who allows, for example, in this case, user A to read only. Could be just normal stuff, to read the product list, and user B could be the manager, read and update, access all data. Okay, so that could be arranged. Okay, take note. And also you can see the example on, for example, Google Drive. Okay, when you can share a document and people can modify, okay, or add things like that. Next is integrity. So here we have DBMS, or database management system. Okay, technically 2 users using it, and it has to be secured. Okay, could be protected by firewalls, for example. So next we have example of a common cube. This is an enhanced version which covers more on education, for example, education training, policy, practices, technology, transmission, storage, process. Okay, and IA covered confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Okay. And moving along, we'll talk about governance. Okay, so what is governance? So essentially is action where companies or organization ensure compliance and policy standards and guidelines. Okay, so we have to follow that. So QA is preventive control, and QC is detective control. Okay, when you have QA, okay, you stop people from making mistake. Okay, right, for example, you tell them you can't download attachment from unknown sources, for example. Okay, quality control, is to improve, okay, from, for example, in this case, past mistake, right? It's not finger pointing, but just to highlight. So why is it important? Because it provides assurance and confidence, where user will follow the rules. Okay, right, it's like driving a car. You have to follow the rules. Okay, and senior management needs to get involved in this. Okay, and also invest at the same time. And on top of that, regulators will audit on this. Okay, do you follow this? Okay, and in most companies, it's a culture thing. Okay, right. So next we take a look at some of the policies. Okay, there's 6 of it. Okay, first one is principle established. Okay, in this case, the tone from top and the authority by which policies are enforced. In this case, senior management or even the IT department, for example. Policy is basically a company organization. Okay, how it they do business transaction. Okay, so what's the desired output? Standard, we hear this all the time. This is the standard. So how companies use it, not only for the headquarter but even their other offices, for example. Okay, or even their vendors or suppliers. Okay, and next we have procedure. Okay, procedure are basically steps, okay, that you are required to implement a process. Okay, guidelines are parameters. Okay, policy standard. Okay, procedure suggested. In this case, for example, user A, normal user could not install new software, for example. That's the guideline. Okay, and last but not least is definition, where you go in depth of the policy. Okay, in terms of documentation, everything has to be documented. Okay, and only standard could be an external document. Okay, in this case, standard could be shared to, like I mentioned initially, to other department or even the supplier or vendor. So next we take a look at how does it differ between policy standard and policy procedure. Okay, so policy standard, okay, in this case, policy implements control on a system to make it compliant to a standard. Okay, so when you design a policy, okay, these are basically rules that have to follow the standard. Okay, and both of them complements each other. Okay, right. And next we see how policy and procedure differ. So with policies then comes the procedure, where you create a step-by-step guide on the system, for example. Okay, so it's a bit mind-boggling, but once you go through it once, and then you will understand. Okay, for example, you buy electronic product, what's the procedure to, for example, to use it? Okay, a step-by-step guide, for example. Next, take a look at creating policy. So the list of standard. Okay, here we have 4. We talk about COVID. Okay, ISO 17799. This is Information Technology Security Technique. Code of Practice for Information Security Management. NIS 800-2, and Introduction of Information Security, and SAN. Okay, so these are basically the standards that's available in the industry. So next we take a look at an example of how IS, or Information System Security, fit in your organization. So this slide is a typical IT infrastructure. So we imagine this could be a St. Cloud State University infrastructure. Okay, where you have a user domain. Okay, could be student, faculty, staff. Okay, on the workstation, right, accessing the LAN domain. So you have 7 domain IT infrastructure. Okay, the LAN will be connected to the wide area network or WAN from the hub router. You have a firewall, okay, connected to the WAN domain. Okay, this could be from one campus or one building. Okay, and also you have remote access, for example. Okay, you can access, for example, D2L from home. Okay, right, and it be connected to the mainframe. Okay, here could be in the IT department, the school, in the library, for example. Okay, we have the firewall, mainframe, the web server, okay, application domain, right, where they keep all the system file, okay, and they are being backed up all the way. Take note, some of this could be in the cloud. Okay, I think you all covered that, where they will use pay as you use. So why is security important, or in this case policy? So it protects the system, okay, from insider threats. Okay, so basically people will know how is the insider of the system work. Okay, okay, majority of system failure is from inside. Okay, protecting information at rest and in transit. Okay, existing database, okay, are being protected in firewall, right? Control change in IT, where you don't want your repository or database being moved around, right? And also defending the business. Okay, that's more important. Okay, just imagine if your business IT infrastructure is down, or D2L is down. Okay, be disaster. Okay, so when do you need it? Okay, to take a look at the system security policy. Okay, when you can use a BPR or business process re-engineering. Okay, it's basically a continuous improvement, right? Making changes to problem. Okay, you have plan, create, refine business line. Okay, research, benchmarking, develop and process future process, and to add governance routine. So this is essentially a feedback, okay, a loop. Okay, it's a constant improvement. So when are this policy enforcing and winning acceptance? Okay, or in this case challenging. Okay, for example, for a company to be accepted, okay, in their policy, right, all players, or in this case all users, should be informed, right? Giving employee the stake. Okay, in this case, for example, getting NM involved. Okay, it could be just an email, okay, question and answer. Okay, asking them whether they are aware of things. Okay, giving them training, right? Is it effective, is it useful? Okay, and also rewarding them, and could be a newsletter or recognizing behavior, okay, and also holding individual accountable. Some on the flip side, when you have challenges in terms of policy, we have bad policy, okay, failure to report, no involvement of staff, okay, and no defined rules, no clear, okay. This is will be challenging or bad for the companies. So in this case, companies should be transparent, right? So that's pretty much it for the class today. If you have any question, please feel free to email me. Don't forget to put subject line for the class. Stay safe. Bye.